Tonight, CID track so-called media cartel responsible for latest West Africa Senior School Certificate examination leakage that forced suspension of a number of papers.
The questions are sold, so we also buy them. I just left the CID headquarters. We've been in discussions with the CID since yesterday because we have been monitoring the WASI and the activities of question marketers for over 2 months now. 1 month before WASI started.
But why is WAEC struggling to call the latest examination breach by its appropriate name?
Leakage, we have not talking about. I think we never mentioned any leakage. We said that we're having some challenges, and then there were some extracts of the rare questions that came. We never mentioned any leakage.
So what do you call it when extracts from a yet-to-be-taken examination circulates on social media? If not leakage, then what else? We'll tell you why there is suspicion tonight on WAEC and GS officers for this latest in a long series of exam leaks.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Gasem Cement, the nation builder. It's also brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can. Now, they admit extracts from several yet-to-be-taken examination questions were being sold by so-called social media cartels, but yet they refuse to call it by what it is: another examination leakage supervised by the West Africa Examinations Council. It has now become an annual ritual, and yet again today, WAEC has once more been forced to reschedule physics and business management papers that had been leaked in the ongoing West Africa examinations, West Africa Senior School Certificate examinations. Well, tonight, the Police Criminal Investigations Department is taking over a probe into the latest leakage and is tracking members of the social media cartel who gained illegal access to the papers and sold them on the open market. We will speak shortly to the Africa Education Watch, which bought some of these questions and has since given evidence to the CID as they pursue the culprits. But first, listen to WAEC's head of text administration, Mr. Ohene Mante, who struggled to label the latest breach a leakage, although he admits aspects of the mathematics and English papers found its way into the public domain before the exam itself took off. He spoke to my colleague, Mefapa.
We received a tip-off from schools that they had the intention of cheating, during the exam. So what we decided to do was that we cautioned the schools as appropriate to ensure that they desist from any underhand plans or actions that have the tendency of undermining the integrity of the examination. And we further went ahead to also give them some stern warning that should any form of malpractice occur, we'll derocate their center and relocate their schools. We are monitoring the situation and we'll closely monitor and see that we validate the evidence of the claims that.
But from your initial assessment, what could be the source of this particular leakage?
Leakage, we have not talking about. I think we never mentioned any leakage during this. We talk about some issues that crop up during our investigation and what about information that we received. And then I think at the briefing, we were very categorical about whatever issues that we were having, and we were not talking about leakage at that place there. We said that we're having some challenges, and then I think we also talk about the English language and the maths elective that there were some extracts of the rare questions that came. That's exactly what we do.
But if you talk about the English language and extracts being out there, extracts of the paper that they're supposed to be writing, how do you describe that if you say it's not a leakage?
No, we didn't have any verbatim issues over there. What we said that we saw some, according to our briefing, what we said was that we, after the test had been done, we were carefully scrutinized the several versions of the whatever information that the rogue websites put out there. And when we find out that indicates that we have extras of parts of the questions for mathematics 2 and section A of English language there. So that's exactly what we said on the meeting that day.
Okay, but it appears that WAEC always has a difficulty with the word leakage. But if these rogue website that you talk about has portions of these papers that have been written, for which reason you've put 11 schools under surveillance. Let's talk about the measures that you're putting in place to make sure that other papers, or you don't have portions or extracts of other papers being put out on these websites.
So we have a lot of measures that we put in place. A lot of measures, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to be mentioning them on air about whatever will be some of our security issues that we have to deal with on Wednesday.
But it appears you've had cause to reschedule some of the papers. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we have rescheduled. We mentioned that one too at the press briefing. We make it public that we've rescheduled phases 2 and business management 2 and 1. And we'll fix a later date for the administration of those papers.
Why has this become necessary?
Well, due to some challenges that we have with the papers. So,
what are these challenges? What are these challenges, Mr. Mante?
Please, I think we'll have to leave it there for now, and in due course, we'll get to know the challenges that we have there.
Are extracts of these papers, Physics 2 and Business, also out there?
Pardon?
Do we have extracts of this physics and business paper out there also?
Because we never mentioned that anywhere that we have extracts of that.
I haven't said you've mentioned that anywhere. I'm only seeking clarity. So when exactly are we hoping?
We have rescheduled the papers for now, and the reasons will be made out there clearly in due course.
Do we suspect leakage of that also?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not talking about leakage now. Please, let's not digress and.
Or do we have extracts? Okay, so there's no leakage, but do we have extracts of these papers out there? For which reason we have to reschedule them?
For those things, I'm not saying that, please.
So when are we hoping to write these papers? Parents want to know.
The council will meet and find the appropriate date for writing those papers.
So that's the head of WAEC's text administration, Ohene Mante. Well, WAEC has announced tonight a number of immediate measures: strict internal controls and compliance by all staff to the security regulations of the council, increased inspection and monitoring at the various centers, withdrawal of some supervisors. So as we speak tonight, some of the supervisors have been withdrawn, invigilators as well. They've been withdrawn from providing services to the council pending further sanctioning. They also have announced a scrutiny of scripts of schools where cheating has been reported. In fact, there are 11 schools currently that have been flagged. These 11 senior high schools across the country, they've been placed on a cheating monitor list following, tip-offs that these schools, have put in place a very elaborate schemes to cheat in the ongoing senior, SSS examination, senior high school examinations that is currently ongoing. They are also currently continuing with the tracking of the rogue websites and social media cartels in collaboration with the security agency. So the number of measures that they are undertaking tonight in the wake of this latest breach, latest leakage in another WAEC supervised examinations. Joining me right now on the telephone line right now is Kofi Asare with the Africa Education Watch. Mr. Asare, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Hi, thank you, Evans, and good evening to your cherished audience.
I understand you filed the former police report with the CID.
Rightly so.
What's the basis of that?
Well, we started monitoring WASI 2021, just like WASI 2020, a month ago. And we are monitoring from about 100 schools. And our aim is to help governments to strengthen the quality of assessment by improving the security and also enhancing credibility. within the context of accountability, we have been intercepting questions between 10:30 p.m. and 4 a.m. at least for 4 WASI subjects and then for 1 NAPTEX paper. It started from the 20th of August, Food and Nutrition 3. And then it moved to elective maths sometime last week. This week, English. And then I think on the same day as the English paper, NAPTEX social studies came around. And then this dawn at 4 a.m., we got the physics. So this is the 5th one we have intercepted. And we have intercepted these questions and placed them within our own Telegram private system. So anyone who enters is able to see when, the time we intercepted them, and then the source. So we decided to finally compile this and then submit same to the CID. Yesterday, we started our discussion with the CID yesterday, as a matter of fact. So this afternoon, we added the evidence and then the leads to the source of these questions to the CID. Let me admit that these questions were actually bought by us. We bought them between 30 Ghana cedis and 100 Ghana cedis per question.
Per question.
So we think that it's time for the CID to do their work and then assist the government of Ghana find out where the questions are leaking. Obviously, the questions are not leaking. They are not leaking in the classroom. They are not leaking in the center. They are leaking a night before the papers.
So what you're saying is that the leakage is happening while the papers are still in the custody of the authorities.
Exactly.
One
is about 4 a.m. That's this one. So all the time, you realize that the time it leaks is actually a time when the custody should be in the safe custody of the strong room and not the schools. That is why we think the CID must step in.
So what we're talking about, this narrows down the potential source of the leakage, as in either WAEC itself, because that will be in your custody, or where are the papers kept before they are released to the exam centers?
In WAEC strong room.
In WAEC strong
room. And the only person we are told who has the key is a WAEC officer. The key to the FAC, the WAEC officer.
Okay, so that establishes a starting point for the CID to look into this very closely.
Because you see, tracing them on the social media sites, it's more or less like a post facto process, because that is not the source. The social media is not the source. It leaks from the ground, moves to the schools, and ends up at social media. Indeed, our monitors in about 100 schools confirm that the questions get to the schools before they get onto the social media platforms. And so when WAEC mentioned 10 schools as being schools that invigilators were complicit in helping students and all that, we were happy that WAEC is beginning to have a tip of the iceberg, because we have about 53 schools on our list where we cannot say that there is any level of invigilation taking place. Our invigilators are compromised, both external and internal, and there's no level of invigilation taking place. And we are going to submit, now that we've seen that WAEC is ready to change the invigilators, change their own external invigilators in these schools, including the local ones, we are going to submit the list to them so that they can also strengthen invigilation there in the interim as we discuss a reform, operational reform and policy reform issues.
So you managed to buy them 30 to 100 cedis a paper. Who were these individuals who were selling them to you?
They are social media platforms, mainly on Telegram, with a total subscribership of about 200,000, more than 50,000.
Wow.
And so it's a free-for-all platform. So when you enroll on these platforms, then they have a VIP page. The VIP page is only created for those who pay. So when you pay through Momo, then you are migrated onto the VIP platform. Some of them are WhatsApp platforms, but then only one person communicates, the administrator alone, and all the communication they do is that they put the questions there. So let me admit, sometimes questions do come, sometimes they do not come. The biology questions prove fake, and we're happy about WAEC. But for English, elective maths, food and nutrition 3, and this morning's physics, they were all in. And we actually got the actual physics paper, because some schools had already opened their questions already, especially in Ashanti region. So we were able to compare to see with what we had in the form of the leak. We have also realized that they have changed their style. They keep communicating on the platform that Education Watch is watching. And so be very careful. So what they are doing now is that they don't take shots of the question papers any longer. They write it in ink, handwritten. and then they mix the questions. So question 1 in the actual paper will be like question 3. So that when you look at it at first instance, you will not think it's a leak until you do an analysis to realize that all the questions are there, but then they are written in hand, one's handwriting, and then the question numbers are mixed up to avoid detection.
So this is becoming increasingly sophisticated, and you say that it is done with the active participation of some schools. In fact, in the WIAC press statement today, they called it institutionalized examination or practice, that is execution of pre-arranged plans to assist candidates.
Let me give you an example of what happens in a school. I won't mention the school's name here. A school headmaster, assistant headmaster, and invigilators form a group. They collect money. The students pay the money between 200 and 300 cities, organize cash, and then they go and get a question from wherever they know. And then when it's time to do the invigilation, all invigilators are compromised. All invigilators are compromised to begin with. So it's a free for all. It is very well organized. In fact, we are actually on several invigilators WhatsApp groups. Invigilators WhatsApp groups for some schools. So it tells you that it is very, very organized between the school's management. It's sort of, there's a contract between the school's management and the students to give them the questions and then supervise them in the room and ensure that they pass. So I am happy WIAC is actually identifying this in 11 schools or so. But I am saying that in our list of 53 schools, 3 of them are in WIAC list.
I mean, I'm wondering, surprised that somebody hasn't been arrested yet, because somebody's holding the key, right? And yet the paper has been leaked. Nobody is in police custody yet, at least as a suspect.
Evans, it is very difficult because there are hundreds of depots around. And you may not know which particular depot leaked the question. The only person who can blow the whistle about a leak of this nature is the academic headmaster of the senior high school, who goes to the depot in the morning to pick the sack.
Oh, so what happens is that these depots are in the schools. Is that what it is?
No, some depots are in some schools, but then most of the depots are in other police stations or in residential areas. You understand? I mean, there's a depot in my area. I know there. So most of them are not. Some of them are police stations. Some of them are not police stations, but they are all banned by security. And then some of them are actually WIAC offices, and some of them are schools. Like Bishop Herman used to have a depot in the school, but then there's always a security man there. So what is happening? What is happening is that if the engagement between the schools and the depots is not broken, you will not see where the shot of the question was taken from. The only way you can detect that this sack, when it arrived in this particular school, had been tampered with, is when the headmaster or the academic headmaster and the team from the school responsible for inspecting the sack and its content to be sure that it is intact are compromised. Or if they are not compromised, they will see that there's one sack which has been torn and a question paper removed. Because once you remove the question paper, you're able to see. But once we are not getting reports from the GAS staff indicating that a sack arrived in the school and then they realized that the papers were tampered with, it means that it is being organized properly. So no one is releasing information. It will be difficult to easily, arrest someone. We believe that with intelligence gathering and then cooperation between WIAC and then the security agencies, there should be a headway, because I have every confidence in WIAC that they are a world institution and they want to see this issue resolved, because it affects the quality of their work and it's not an issue of the institution.
Yeah, but they have been consistently understating the problem today.
It is because they are protecting their image and protecting their business. Don't forget that WIAC has a monopoly in Ghana. They are in Ghana because they are conducting examination for the government of Ghana.
I mean, let me ask you when they said today in the statement that the leakage that has just happened is not extensive, you agree?
It is difficult. It is impossible for you to actually gauge the magnitude of a leakage which is on social media. More so when the platform where the leakage is being reported.
I'm on. They are calling. Let me finish with Joy. When I finish, I'll pick.
Challenge that we are confronted with.
So, talking about WIAC's own approach to this, before the papers began, they gave a briefing to the education minister. This is what he told him. Educhu himself, the education minister, articulated it when he went around to supervise and inspect some of the examination centers.
Based on what WAEC is telling us, their systems are fine. But there has also been some allegations which we have asked that WAEC look into so that any issues that are there can be prevented.
So this is WAEC telling the education minister that our systems are fine. I mean, everybody in this country knows that's not true. But they consistently tell that to the education minister. Even he himself doubted it when he was told.
I think WAEC needs genuine help from all of us, especially from the moral society, because there's a moral issue. Our assessment system has been corrupted. Our students in school are motivated to hunt for questions than to learn and pass. There's a group of students who are seriously learning to pass, and another group are seriously investing in getting questions and reading questions and going to reading answers. So we have a situation where we need the parents, teachers, all of us have a key role to play in ensuring that we teach our children integrity. And
I mean, I get that. I get that point, Kofi. But isn't it time to take a radical view of this WAEC problem? That WAEC itself needs a radical shake-up in its own ranks.
It is actually time. That is why yesterday, when I heard the Minister of Education pronounce publicly that government is considering implementing a technological solution to this, I was happy because we made.
That will solve part.
He was explicit that government is actually planning to infuse technology.
I get it, Kofi. But you admit
one of the radical measures.
I get it, but
government can suggest.
But
the
Kofi,
other one is the
Kofi. I get the point you're making about the. By the way, this is the education minister laying out that plan.
We are even talking about serialization, which means there can be about 5 to 10 versions of the same test. So if somebody creates a rogue website and say this question has leaked, there are about 10 versions. How do you know that question is even going to be in your school? Or even if it comes to your school, how do you even know that will be the question that you're going to be answering? So we are talking to work that will make sure that we put to rest this argument as to whether something happened, didn't happen. I believe that just as is being done in other jurisdictions, digital exams, of course, is the future. And that future should be happening in this country. But before we get to digital, we should be looking at serialization.
So, Kofi, there you have it. So, two solutions he just talked about there. One is serializing. Two is digital exams. But I'm saying you can have that. But if you have human beings in WAEC who are determined to rig the system, they'll find a way out. Shouldn't we first rid WAEC of these human beings who have been doing this and yet nobody touches them year on year? This will just window dress the problem.
To get rid of WAEC, the people from WAEC, because WAEC work with a lot of third parties. They work with the security agencies and they work with GAS. If you study WAEC prosecutions in the past, most of those prosecuted are student teachers, and in some cases, those are arrested policemen. So you realize that they work with a lot of third parties, and so it's difficult to say that when someone from WAEC is no more, everything will change. But indeed, we need to hold people in WAEC accountable when this leaks occur. And we have also recommended that, look, all these things are happening because WAEC has enjoyed a 50-plus year comfort zone romance with the government of Ghana. In other countries like Nigeria, WAEC has not got a monopoly. And so having a monopolistic relationship obviously will lead to a comfort zone, okay? No one needs a narrative on that. So bringing in some competition, inviting other international assessors to come and compete with WAEC within the public space is one of the ways that we can get WAEC to be on their toes and be more serious about question security.
So bottom line, break WAEC's monopoly. Stay with me, Kofi. I want to bring in Kwesi Kwarteng. He speaks for the Education Ministry. Mr. Kwarteng, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Evans, good evening, and you're welcome.
Great to have you. We just played the minister's point on fixing the problem long term. But I wonder, when is the ministry going to crack the whip on WAEC, for example? I know there's an independent body, etc. But until that is done, a lot of the problems will continue. When are we going to have a tougher stance on this matter?
Evans, I think as we all do acknowledge, in any activity or every enterprise where you have the human interface certainly dealing with it or playing a very crucial role, or probably taking the larger role in such activities, certainly you will have some of these backlashes. But I think that should be separated from the conversation or the discussion that came up today. I mean, as of now, WAEC has not issued or brought out reasons explaining why they had to reschedule
No, they have. They
exam.
issued a statement in which they said parts of the papers that have been rescheduled had been circulating on social media. That
was not what. I mean, you can read the statement. I have personally also read the statement and gotten in touch with WAEC. Record the statement are in force. So when you get to the aspect where they are referring or making reference to the fixes and the business management one, they never subscribe the reasons.
No, but but Mr. Kwati, just a second.
Yes.
On that point, you look at the entire statement. They start by telling us the problem, which is that they found aspects leaked, and then they talk about
to which particular paper.
Yes, but they talk about physics and business. Right after they talk about that, they come to point one and talk about measures they put in place to avert it happening again now. That should tell you, I mean, what the problem is.
So you are trying to draw linkages to that.
Yeah, I mean, fairly,
just listened to your interview when you were even probing the WAEC man to come out with the reasons for the leakage. Oh, sorry, the rescheduling.
And he was struggling dancing around the thing, didn't want to call it.
He yourself, in a way, admits that the reasons were not. I mean, Evans, don't let us spend my time on that aspect. The bottom line is that in every human institution, you may have these challenges. I mean, I want us to even discuss this whole broader conversation of malpractices and exam anomalies that we experience. I mean, it's possible. When these issues come, what we do is that you face the challenges or you address them. And that's what the Minister of Education is talking about. He is bringing in the serialization in the short term to come and curb some of
so short term, when exactly is this going to happen?
I was landing. I was landing. Beyond that, I mean, beyond the serialization, he also introduced that bit of electronic testing, which cumulatively, whether you use this one or you use it cumulatively, will cure the problem. I mean, this is a conversation that has come out. The minister has raised such a point, and discussions are in together with WAEC to be able to protect the integrity that we have with our exams, especially when it comes to the WASI. Because most of these challenges that we see is relative to the WASI. And so at the end of the day, the problem or the challenge has to be solved. And that's what the minister is there to do. We've acknowledged that indeed, I mean, some of the...
Except that, Mr. Kwarteng, the problem with exam leakage isn't new. The deputy minister, well, he used to be a deputy minister for 4 years. He's now a minister almost a year now. The problem persists under his watch. We are now hearing about medium to long-term solutions, but this has been there for a long, long time.
Okay, so Evans, I tackle this by saying that even if you look at WAEC since it was established in 1952, certainly it's been through a lot of reforms. Even generally, if you look at the challenges that we are having in educational landscape, being it exams, being it double track, being it infrastructure, certainly these are not problems which are 5 years old problems. And certainly it's not going to take a day to solve it. The solutions to the problems clearly is not an event. Even if you talk about serialization, you surely have to get all the stakeholders involved and then conclude or come into an agreement that this is what we are going to do. Whether serialization is the way to go, whether digitization is the way to go, or whether electronic testing is the way to go. At the end of the day, a decision will have to be made. And so you do not measure the minister's commitment to addressing a challenge like this based on the time that he's been in office. I mean, this is not a 4-year or 5-year-old problem. But Evans, what is more important to us as a ministry is that the problem or the challenge ought to be conversation about examination, more practices and other things. It ought to be solved. I mean, when I was listening to Kofi Asare, he made a very profound statement that quickly I may quickly also want to address. I mean,
unfortunately, I don't have time on this, Mr. Kwarteng. But briefly, if you can make it in 30 seconds, yes, that's possible.
Yes, I mean, Kofi was alluding to the fact that he had the faces questions and created an impression that on that basis it was leaked. I think it is proper that we set the clarity that as of now, the questions were not even written in the first place. And so there cannot be any basis for you to compare what you have with what ought to have been written.
No, I'm sorry. That is not what WAEC themselves have said. Yes, go on, Lan.
To then come to the conclusion that the question was leaked.
Of course, I mean,
But the questions have been leaked. The WAEC themselves said, the interview, if you listen, WAEC, the man said, aspects of the papers have circulated. That's WAEC speaking, the man in charge of examinations.
Yes, I'm telling you that, I mean, I have read that statement. I heard him, everybody heard
yes.
He was referring to the English, I mean, Kofi is on the line. He was referring to the
English and mathematics aspects have been leaked. That's bottom line. Nobody can argue with that.
We are in this case, we are referring to the fixes and the business management paper, which we are having a conversation on, which was rescheduled. Evans, the point is that we do not expect that we wouldn't have some of these these challenges in our exams, especially when you are dealing with human beings. What we do in issues like this is to address it.
Yeah, you mentioned what the plan is. The education minister we've heard him describe it. Thank you, sir, Mr. Kwarteng. Thank you, Kofi Asare, for that. If you're a parent and your child is writing the ongoing WASI papers, I want to hear from you tonight on this challenge. Are you one of those who joined the Telegram page so you can acquire these papers and pay as we've seen the CIDs looking into that? I want to hear from you on this. A news night is starting now.
Masa, yet two unlimited calls. Vodafone Red, so you know here. Jack, me too. No expiry with Vodafone Red. Yeah, star 200 hash, huh? I bab the move when you be what? Vodafone Red, no lie. Cocraft me top man do you because I call a browser da. Vodafone Red, star 200 hash, assistant. See, yeah, Casacona, na browser. Star 200 hash.
Appointment. It's better to turn around.